What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA DFS Wise stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And I am joined once again by the GOAT, the true OG that you know as Paulie D. You can find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. Paulie, one hell of a slate we have today.
You said it, bro. Shit is ugly, but that's it's how the NBA season normally ends. With a bunch of ugliness, and then we get the playoffs, which is usually gloriousness. So,
That's it,
a
man.
couple more days.
It's got to get a little worse before it gets better, like anything else in this in life. It's like, you really got to hit rock bottom for NBA regular season before you can enjoy the luxury of the first round of the playoffs. And I say the first round because as the later you get to the playoffs, it gets back to like not it's great basketball, but DFS wise, it gets like you're dealing with 2 game slates and you know.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, for some of you have asked via our contact form on WiseTake, if we're covering if the NBA package, rest of season package includes the playoffs, it does. We'll have all the content when there's 3 games or more. Once we're down to 2 game slates, we will still have projections, still have cheat sheets, but that's kind of where we'll leave it at that for anyone who's asked. With that said, we got some regular season basketball to finish up before we get into the juiciness of the first couple rounds. And we're going to go game by game like we always do. We just got some of this Pacers news, so I'll kind of sift through it while you're talking first, Paulie. I see a 233 total up from 232. We've got the Rockets currently 7-point favorites. They opened up -8. And we know that the Pacers are sitting quite a few people. No TJ Warren. Sabonis is obviously still out. No Brogdon. Paulie D, any interest in any of these Pacers?
Yeah. Dougie McBuckets, get ready to fire him up. um, but no, I mean Aaron Holiday's probably the best play on the slate. I will be adding him to my article shortly. No Brogdanovic, no TJ Warren. He was already getting a ton of minutes, and now he'll get a lot of usage. He's had games with 10 assists already, and probably going to push for that again here against the fast-paced Rockets. Like Oladipo as well, like Justin Holiday. Miles Turner's a fine option, and I do think on a slate where we really don't have a ton of value, Dougie McDermott is going to become a really nice value play. Him and Justin Holiday right now are probably my 2 favorite value plays on the slate, which is a scary thing to say, but that's the world we're living in right now. That's they're all kind of viable with Aaron Holiday, McDermott, Oladipo, and Justin Holiday being my 4 favorites.
Yep, and again, as always, like motivation, just looking at what teams are playing for what. We're done with like the ins and outs at this point. At least for this slate, it's more about like seeding, if you want to call it that. And we talked about it yesterday. A lot of times the seeding is kind of up in the air. You're not sure. I mean, currently the Pacers I think are 1 game behind the Heat. So if they could get it, sure, but how far are they willing to go to get it? Probably not that far. And as you can, evident by Brogdon being out and Warren being out, if this was like a situation where they really wanted to win this game, they would play those guys. With that said, they are still going to try to win. They're not going to just intentionally lose the game. So picking off pieces, I think, like you said, probably the guys you mentioned are going to be pretty popular and for good reason. Maybe in tournaments, keep in mind some guys, maybe like a TJ McConnell, who should see an uptick in minutes with no Brogdon playing backup point guard. We could see a situation where they're even on the court together, him and Holiday. So those are like your lower exposure guys. Other than that, Paulie already hit on the guys that you're going to get your big chunk of exposure to. Unfortunately, the Holidays, Dougie McBuckets, these kind of guys that are seeing extended minutes. With that said, let's go on to the other side, the Houston Rockets side. So Harden's playing, Westbrook's not this time. They alternated. Last time Harden played in a game, they were pushing him into the fourth quarter. It was blowout city. They didn't care. Yesterday in their game, yesterday against, I forgot who they played, they didn't. It wasn't the situation. They didn't really play the guys much in the fourth quarter. Maybe it was because it was a back-to-back. We know that's not really D'Antoni's style, but Westbrook has been a lot more injury-prone, and they've been more cautious with him than Harden. So give me your thoughts on the Rockets.
Yeah, so I don't think I've ever seen them really pulling the reins on Harden, and as he kind of, goes on his scoring ways, you know, trying to get records down the road. I think they're just going to play him. I don't think they're going to have the same precautions that they do with Westbrook. I plan to have about 75% Harden. There's just not much options on the slate. He's most likely to be the highest scoring player on the slate, even if there is another stud that does outscore him. I think you're going to want to pair them up. So I just don't see any real reason not to play him. I'm kind of hoping the field is looking at what happened with Westbrook yesterday and a little hesitant, but the 4-game slate, I can't imagine he's any less than 50% owned. But I'll be playing him quite a bit. It's kind of the same deal. They do get Eric Gordon back, but they lost House. It's kind of like a non-event. I'll have a share or two of Covington, a couple shares of McLemore. I think Austin Rivers is a fine play today. I think he benefits more being on the court with Harden than with Westbrook, where like Westbrook and him play very similar styles. Him and Harden are like, he plays like Westbrook, so like their system is the same with Westbrook out and Rivers. Then with Harden out, it's like two of the same guys trying to do the same thing. It doesn't work as well. So I think Austin Rivers is a nice play. And I continue to play Jeff Green at the cheap price. He's just getting a ton of minutes. He's always aggressive. And again, there's just not a ton on the slate to like. So Harden, Rivers, and Green, the 3 favorite Rockets.
Yeah, no, I completely agree on the Harden piece. Even if you don't necessarily say he doesn't go out there and go for 60, 70, 80, he's still going to put up something that's significant as far as raw points go. And it with all the value that we already have and we're probably going to have by the end of the slate, it should be pretty easy to fit him in. So I just don't see a reason not to blend him in there with your other 3K players who go for like 10x, because that's going to happen. One of these wankers, if you will. I like that word. It sounds way cooler when the Australian people or whatever say it, but it's like, like imagine that, like just out in the open to stuff. If you were just like
50 cents in it.
And I don't know exactly what wanker means, but to me it sounds like, you dick. And like imagine just like, you can't, in America, you don't walk around the street being like, oh, you dick. Like you do, but like only to people you know. You don't say it to random people. You know what I mean? Like you're not supposed to. But imagine that, just walking around like, hey, you dick. It's awesome. But yeah, man, working in some Covington, just in case they do play the guys. But guys like Austin Rivers, Jeff Green, these are guys, a good opportunity for them to get some playing time going into the playoffs. So I'm fine with it. Eric Gordon is limited 20 to 25 minutes also. So to Paulie's point, like, we don't anticipate him taking away too much. And obviously, like he said, House is out. With that said, we got the Toronto Raptors visiting the Philadelphia 76ers. We've got a 222 total down from 223.5. Toronto opened up -8. They are down to -6, probably because Joel Embiid and Tobias Harris were ruled in, I believe. Paulie, we'll start with Toronto.
Yep.
What you got?
Yeah. I'd like to get OG in Surge's status. I think that could open up some options. If everybody's around, it's like everyone's a nice play, but nobody really jumps off the page. If I had to really dig deep and recommend somebody, I'd go with Siakam. He's the best player on Toronto, and maybe they want to make a statement against Philly, but I don't got much here. I think it's like if you're gonna come to this game, you're really looking for the Philly side, but Siakam, and if OG and Ibaka do get ruled out, then we got Rondé Hollis-Jefferson and Chris Boucher as options. But if they're not ruled out, I just don't think anyone gets enough minutes to really do enough.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think they're playing for nothing. This game literally means nothing. They're 4 games behind the number 1 seed, the Bucks. They're still 3.5 games above the Celtics. This game has no implications whatsoever for their benefit. So it seems to me like a good candidate to not play your guys full minutes, and that makes me nervous. At this time of year, that's going to be like a landmine situation. Of course, you're going to have this random team like Boston, Orlando the other day. None of us expected Boston to really, play other guys a ton, and they just have been. They're like, nope, we're going to keep playing as if everything matters and dirties. And our projections just went blank on our screen. I'm working on those corrections as we speak. And in the meantime, I'll kick it to you, Paulie, for Philly. Oh, Paulie's doing dirty. He's on the other line. Robert Giselman will start for the Mets. So I'll kick it off with Philly. We know Embiid was recently ruled in. Tobias was recently ruled in. Horford. All these guys should be playing at this point. There we go. Projection cities are back. But again, just going back to the motivation factor, just not sure how much. I mean, for Philly, what are they? They could catch the Pacers. They're one game behind the Pacers. So if that's what they want to do, and we're talking about one game behind, as in they would just tie them at this point. A similar team, I think there's landmines here. Embiid recently dealing with an injury. Just not sure how much anybody's really going to play. The only scenario I think that Paulie hit on earlier where a game stack is warranted or going heavy exposure on these guys is warranted is if for some reason you think it's going to come down to a pride thing or they're going to treat this like a rehearsal for the playoffs and just play their guys. We do know Alec Burks is out, so maybe that opens up some minutes for a guy like Furkan, But Jay Rich is supposed to be back, so I don't know. What do you think, Paulie?
I was surprised to see these guys get ruled in, and exactly what you said. Like maybe they just play this like a normal game, and other games don't on the slate, and this ends up being the spot. In which case, you're going to want stacks. Otherwise, it's like hard to really envision these guys playing more than 25 minutes. Starters or backups. Like I think they're just going to play a lot of bodies and just treat it like a workout. At some point you got to play some guys. So I think the guys with the higher ceilings are interesting, like Embiid, but there's not much here. I think Shake Milton's cheap enough and a guy that they're going I could see them playing like 35 minutes, getting run with the starters and the second unit. You could take a stab there, but I was surprised to see these guys ruled in, and Alec Burks would have been the one guy I did want to have interest in. He's actually out. So I don't know what to tell you. Yeah, there's not a ton
Big
here.
Pimpin'. I mean, like you said, you're gonna have to pick a game. It's just if I was gonna pick a game, I don't think it would necessarily be this one. That's really what it comes down to. Next up, we'll go to the Miami Heat and the Oklahoma City Thunder. We've got a 222 total that's gone up 2 points from 220. The Heat opened up -1.5. They're up to -3. Paul, any interest in the Miami Heat?
No, not really. No, I do like some guys on the Heat just based on their price, and if Kelly Olynyk gets ruled out, and along with Dunn already being out, they're somewhat short. I don't think they go too deep. I think they're just gonna try to play like a lot of these guys are new, like Crowder and Dragic was hurt. Jimmy Butler hasn't played with these guys much. I think the Heat are a team that's a little bit more likely to kind of play their starters just normal, and none of them are really that expensive. So I do like the Heat. Outside of like the Indiana-Houston game, I'd say the Heat are probably my next favorite team based on their pricing and me thinking that they're going to get close to like normal minutes. So Dragic's interesting. He hasn't played a ton lately, but Bam's the guy I like the most. And then if Olynyk gets ruled out, like a Jay Crowder and what's his name? The airplane mode. What's that kid's name? Derek Jones Jr. would become interesting.
For sure. Hold up. Got a little bug situation on my desk. I agree. I think what you hit on the head right there is close to none of these teams are really playing for anything, right? So which team is going to play their guys the closest to normal minutes? And I think you can make a strong case for Miami because they kind of always play relatively deep, but like the rotations are kind of firm. So maybe instead of Butler getting 33 or 34, 35, maybe we see him get like 28, 29, and we see Derek Jones Jr. get like 23, 24 when he only gets 18 or 19. So again, it's somewhere within the vicinity. I don't love the game pace and all that kind of stuff, but you do have two teams with like half motivation, so maybe we see some defense let up a little bit. And again, you kind of have to take some guys elsewhere. With that said, what about the Oklahoma City side?
The Oklahoma City side is, another one. We're kind of waiting to see what happens with Noel and Adams. I don't think they've given us that yet. Just check. Yeah, I don't see anything yet. Where if they play, it's again a team where there's not many guys missing, so we don't have any of those 3K guys to make the stars and scrub build we'd like to get today. If they're out, then Muscala, Basley, Hamidou Diallo all become nice little value plays on the slate, even though Basley has just been crushing and his price is already kind of elevated. And I think he's viable even if those guys don't miss. But Shea Gilgeous and Lugan Stort are the two that I'm most interested in. Uh, expect them to have a chance to play with either, even when, like, say, Chris Paul and Gallo are on the bench resting, or if the game, does play competitively all the way out there. They should be the safest and highest upside, highest usage for the guys on the court. I really can't envision, like, Gallo and Chris Paul being on the court late in the fourth quarter here, but anything's possible. That's another one that I would either stack, you know, or just play those pieces that we do like from it. But tough to see these guys really pushing all that much either.
Yep, completely agree. Oh, I'm gonna get you. You son of a bitch. All right.
And it would pick.
Trying to, man. He's a crafty bastard. Anyway, again, the motivation in question, they've been resting these guys on and off. I think you're just going to have to kind of pick one of the games that you think the guys are the most likely to do that kind of shit. Oh, you're dead now, mother. Oh. Victory. That's how we do that. That's how the fuck we do that. But yeah, I really don't have anything to add, except for, well, not add, but touch on Basley's been playing incredibly. I know his price is up, but if you want to take a shot in tournaments and just hope that these guys, because again, like, we're looking for guys to get closer to the normal minutes. So say he's only supposed to get 18, maybe he does get 23, and he's just been hot. I can see them just letting him go. You got veterans like Chris Paul. Adams has been dealing on and off with injury. I just don't see why you would push him. I just don't. But I know I haven't had a ton to contribute just yet, but I guess my favorite game is his last one. And part of it is just because I always like to, take the late games. But if I'm going to pick some players, I like the players on these teams. So I'm going to roll with this one, and that is the Clippers and the Nuggets. We have a 229 total. Clippers currently 5-point favorites. No change there in the line. Again, if I'm going to go to war with any game, it's probably this one for me. Paulie, what are your thoughts on the Clippers and on the game in general?
Yeah, I agree. If I had to pick a game, I think goes, to the wire. They play it out normally. It'd be this one as well, outside of the first, and it happens to have the highest total outside of the first. So, hadn't even looked at that till just now, but kind of supports that. Clippers side, I do like the way Ivica Zubac's been playing. Little concern with foul trouble, but also think they're going to need some size against Denver. So there's a chance if he doesn't get in foul trouble for him to see a couple extra minutes, and he's a high point per minute guy. Like Paul George, and I think Lou Williams, there's a chance that they let him get a few extra minutes and get into his rhythm because he really hasn't looked great, and they need him to be the killer that he is off the bench when they get into the deep rounds of the playoffs and they're playing from behind in certain games. And I feel like there's a chance that they try to get him a little bit more run or have him take a whole bunch of shots like he can in certain situations. So he's a guy I'd throw a couple darts at along with Zubac and Paul George. And I'm cool with Morris Leonard, Reggie Jackson, those guys. I'll probably have 5 to 15% of them with, again, George, Zubac, and Lou Williams, the guys that I'll have in the 30s. And then on the Denver side, Jamal Murray's been awesome since coming back. He's still relatively cheap at 7K. I'd play him. I'm going to continue to play Michael Porter Jr. I was a little surprised that they pulled him and didn't play him with the starters last game, but they didn't play him with the bench guys. They rested him as a veteran. But I still think that they'll try to get him as much game experience because he really hasn't played a ton, and they're gonna want to use him in the playoffs. So I like him, and that's it unless we get some other news. Murray and Porter.
Yeah, I mean, it was.
I'll say one more thing. Bull has played about 20 minutes a game the last two, and he's a massive point per minute guy. His game is pretty developed. Like, he can shoot from outside. He's coordinated for a big, tall guy. I think he's a nice sneaky value play today as well.
You know, in general, as far as the Clippers go, like, they've been kind of playing their guys, even though they don't really have to. Like, yeah, they've rested a guy here or there, but the guys that are supposed to play have been playing. So I really don't see a reason why they wouldn't kind of continue to do that. Kawhi Leonard, at the same time, when we're going back to the Denver side, is the defending champion from last year, right? He's the one, the Raptors won the championship, but Kawhi Leonard is always the guy, and Kawhi Leonard is that guy. So perhaps we see Denver get up a little bit. They're only a game and a half behind the Clippers, so it's not really a motivation factor, but there is that whole see you in the playoffs type thing. We didn't really see it happen with LeBron and Denver. Denver just kind of quit and didn't play their guys in the fourth. So the Denver side's a little worrisome. I'll admit that. But the Clippers side, they haven't shown me anything to make me believe they're not going to play their guys, at least close, like we said, to their current minutes. So I think the Clippers are probably one of the best teams to target simply because of that, because I think that they'll get close minutes. And as you were saying about Denver, I'm surprised also because they really haven't seen this unit play together a whole ton. They were missing Jamal Murray for a while. Michael Porter Jr. overtook the starting lineup around that time. It's not like he was playing there the whole season. So I was also a little confused as to why they didn't give him more run out there just in general. But maybe we see it today. But the Clippers side of the ball is definitely the most desirable IMO. We're going to hit us some questions now. I'm pulling up the YouTube chat. There's only 4 games, so I figured we'd blow through it and, answer some questions at the end. What up, Moochie? Says, what's good, WiseTake Nation? Ugly 4-game slate. Philly is playing their starters, and Pacers are banged up. That is correct. Daniel D, what's going on, man? Roddy Pope, any Samson love?
No, I mean, he's going to see some minutes, and he is min-priced, so, yeah, I shouldn't say none at all. I've just never seen him go for more than 20, 22 points in a game, and he's just such a low usage kind of guy. He's gonna have to everything's gonna have to kind of go right from to really work out, even at min price. But I like the other guys on Indiana.
Dirty Burgers. MG says I should put Nawaba into the minutes. Yeah, it's possible that Nawaba sees some time. He plays over on Houston. I wouldn't want to put in minutes because I have no clue how many minutes that would be. They could put him in for 8 minutes. They could put him in for 15. So I don't think that's not you're not wrong, MG. I think they definitely could play him some minutes. It's just really hard to project.
He's digging.
And that is digging. It's definitely some serious digging right there. But
I didn't even know Baba was on that team.
Yeah. No, I didn't notice it either. I looked at our own sheet and I saw his name and I was like, oh shit, he is in the Rockets. Okay.
Nice.
Elizabeth the Grub. We already talked about Samson, but what about Oladipo?
Yeah, I like Oladipo quite a bit. Yeah, Aaron Holiday, Dougie McBuckets, Justin Holiday, and Victor Oladipo. Those 4 Pacers are my favorite.
Juice, what's going on? Good to see you. Artful Dodger, I'm playing GPPs. I don't know who the fuck to play. Too much value that's going to be high owned. Yes, absolutely. Bro, and I'll say it again, man, for the most part, I mean, maybe except for the Brooklyn guys did me pretty well yesterday, but most slates, man, it's been the later you wait and the later that you get access to the later value, the later games, the better it seems to be. Even with the that Kings game, we were totally unsure of who was going to play what. They ended up playing Bogdanovich normal minutes, and he went out there with no De'Aaron Fox and did dirty. So it's again, happened to be the latest game on the slate. So there is some value to that from a game theory perspective. I'm not saying base your research around it, but if there's 2 guys equal, I'm going to pick the later guy because I think his ownership is going to be lower. And it's not really about him being late. It's about the ownership being lower. That's what it's really about. It's Roddy Pope, Basley. I think we both talked about Basley as an interesting tournament dart. We have no reason to believe he's going to play a ton, but right, a guy, his price is elevated a little bit, but a guy you could work in if you have a few. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say 15%. no more, no less. Somewhere in there. Especially if Adams and Noel get ruled out.
Holla. Corey Randall says, I'm really thinking Chris Boucher and Norman Powell get run again today, but he wants our opinion. Paulie, what are your thoughts? Do you think Boucher and Powell will get some run today?
I mean, Powell's definitely getting run, no matter what. That's he's pretty much a starter there or 6-man. Depending on what they're doing with OG, but Boucher is not a lock. But I feel like he earned it, and if Ibaka gets ruled out, I think he'll come off the bench and get some minutes. And, we saw his ceiling the other day. Definitely a guy, you can mix in, but I don't think either is a guy I'd have more than 20% of.
Yeah, like you were saying, Paulie, we had guys out last time. That's what led to Boucher getting that kind of run, right? There was no Ibaka, I think. If Ibaka and Gasol are both there, then Boucher probably plays, but maybe it's only 15 minutes. Maybe it's not the amount of run he got that last time out. If one of those guys are ruled out, then there's a good likelihood he's going to get significant more minutes, in which, yes, I would definitely work in Boucher. And what was the other guy? Was it? And Powell, like Paulie said, he's a 6-man. He's going to play. Matter of how much, but he's going to play. Any Kyle Lowry love from Juice?
Only in game stacks.
Holla. Hingo, Aladipo, Mookie Moptite, Miles Turner starting. Daniel D, which teams have the best value today?
Indiana.
MG says highest owned guys you got, not including Harden and the Pacers. So outside of the Pacers and Harden, who's the next highest owned guy you got?
Michael Porter Jr., Bam Adebayo, Austin Rivers, Vika Zubac, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Norm Powell.
Shot caller. Moochie says, who do you like at center for the Raptors? Again, it depends on injury. So assuming everybody's healthy, is there anyone you like as the center play?
No.
Yeah, so you need an injury.
Yeah. Yeah, I need Ibaka to get ruled out, and then it'd become Boucher.
Yeah, true that. Does Denver have reasons to limit the starters' minutes?
Well, they kind of did last game. They didn't close the fourth, which really hurt me, so I know it happened. Jokic, they just let Bol and those guys get some run, and, the reason would be health. Millsap's been nicked up. Murray was injured. Harris and Barton already, haven't played at all since the reopening. So you want to go into the playoffs healthy. These are meaningless games. That's the reason.
100%. 100%. Again, if they didn't do it against the Lakers, I just don't see why they would do it here. Maybe they're going to look at it as like a final dress rehearsal type of deal. But again, teams that have been affected by injury more often during the season are typically more cautious at this point in the season. Like Paulie said, they're already missing Barton and Harris, who haven't played a single minute in this restart. The last thing they want to do is Michael Porter Jr., who missed his entire rookie year because of an injury. It's like, the last thing they want to do is injure one of these people. But maybe they get close, right? Like some of these guys can do dirties even in limited minutes. Let's see. Artful Dodger, are y'all going live for MLB? I'm going super light for NBA. Yeah, absolutely. We will be here at 6 p.m. Eastern to talk about some baseball. For sure. Roddy Pope says Macklemore or Rivers for a single game. Oh, for the single game. Rivers. For DraftKings. All right, Nation, that's going to do it. We got about half an hour or so till lock, but we're going to get up out of here. It's a small slate. Don't overthink it. Just do dirties. If you see news, react to that news. Hopefully you have access to our Slack chat where we have the injury feed channel that keeps you guys updated. And you get that by being a monthly member or higher at WiseTake.com. Book your ticket to Screenshot City today at WiseTake.com. Holla. Last question. Okay, we got a couple questions I'll answer because we're just men of the people. We're men of the nation, I should say. What top 2 studs would you build around? From Dorian Cohen.
Harden and Harden and Bam Adebayo.
Bam. Moochie says, do we like Reggie Jackson?
Not really.
Yeah, I prefer Lou Williams, but I don't mind Reggie simply because, again, I like the Clippers in general. Because I'm cool with all Clippers, but if you're asking me who my favorite guard is, it's probably Lou. Sweet Lou. Sweet Lulu. And that's gonna do it, Nation. Hit that like button on your way out if you haven't already. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We'll be back at it tomorrow with probably another ugly slate. But we'll be back at it later tonight with some baseball action. Baseball has been hot. Shout out to Clint Portrikis, aka Shockey, won another G last night in MLB, the late slate. It's what we do. Like I said, screenshot shitty. Tickets on sale now. WiseTake.com. You, Nation, money. Paulie, anything in closing before we get up out of here?
No, good luck. Good
For
dirt.
Paulie,
See ya.
for
Baseball.
Paulie D, for myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.